Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is another US political update that I'm going to be giving you, and I do have a massive backlog of US political stuff to go through, and so there will be a couple of US political videos over the next 24 hours. I'll be a bit heavy on that. I'm not really going to apologize. This is stuff that I've been storing up to talk about for some time now. Maybe the last month some of this is somewhat older. But it's important, and you don't have to watch all my videos, but please do. We're going to talk about, well, really gerrymandering to start with, but I guess the theme of this video is doing stuff in broad daylight and getting away with it. And also this idea that imagine if Biden had said this, imagine if Obama had said this, imagine if either of them had done this, imagine if, what Biden had said these crazy things that made no sense. You would be calling him out for being demented, that he's too old, he's not making any sense. Well, Trump says it, and it's like, no, it's just Trump. So we're going to look at, but also talking about saying things that should really cause you to be hoisted by your own petard in public, saying these things out loud, and everyone's just like, that's Trump. Well, hang on, this is crazy. So the first example is going to be gerrymandering. So for those of you who don't know what gerrymandering is, this is an issue when you don't have proportional representation in your electoral system. So you broadly won't get this across Europe. This could happen in the UK, but we don't really redistrict an awful lot. There was some redistricting just before the last elections and around the last elections that was actually why, for example, Ben Wallace, a former Secretary of Defense, dropped out of, he resigned as Secretary of Defense, and then said he wasn't going to run again because he was going to lose his constituency and then have to go and run somewhere else. And anyway, among other reasons, that's why he stepped down. So we do have occasional redistricting in the UK, but in the US it happens a lot, and it happens usually down at district level, and states will be drawing and redrawing maps all the time. Both sides do this. It's called gerrymandering. There are arguments as to which side benefits more. The prevailing wisdom is that the Republicans do this and benefit from it more. But then there are some analyses to suggest that it's broadly equal and that one cancels out the other. But whatever the situation is, Trump is talking about doing it openly in order to gain seats. So how does it work? The principle of gerrymandering is, imagine this is the amount of people you've got here. So you've got 2/5 of the people vote yellow and 3/5 vote blue. An example of this in the UK situation, this is broadly how it worked actually, except Lib Dems do pick up seats, but far fewer than they really should as far as representation goes. So imagine in the UK you've got 650 constituencies for your members of parliament, right? And each 650 constituencies vote for their MP, and imagine 10% in each of the 650 vote for Lib Dems. So you've got in everywhere there 10% of the vote is for a Lib Dem person. If you don't have proportional representation, then Lib Dems will get 0 members of parliament, even though 1 in 10 people would like Lib Dems to be in charge, because it's first past the post. So you need to have the highest number of votes in any given constituency. And if you can get 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, you're certainly not getting 50%. And even when you have many people going for the seat, and perhaps you win by getting 35% of the vote, 10% still not going to get you a seat, right? So all of those 10% translate into absolutely no power. Okay, so that's one way it can happen. So we can see that here. So imagine you've got 2/5 of the electorate want to vote yellow and 3/5 want to vote blue. If you split the districts into these 5 different setups here, in each district you have 4 out of 10 wanting yellow to win, and in no districts do they win outright. So you would have 0 yellow seats in this situation and 5 blue seats. But if we split the districts like this, downwards, vertically rather than horizontally, you would get 2 yellow seats and 3 blue seats. So if the districts are set up like that, it's 0 to 5. Here it's 2 to 5. If it's set up like this, all equal sized districts, but you're redrawing the borders in different ways, you have 3 yellow seats and 2 blue seats. And now, even though fewer people are voting for yellow, if you draw your borders in particular ways, you can gerrymander it so that you can have the majority of seats being run by yellows, even though they only have 2/5 of the vote share. And then here it's a different setup again. So it just depends how you draw your borders. And what happens is you say famously, it's like, one of the examples is that this area is predominantly black people who are going to vote Democrat, and so if we can draw the borders just here through that, and we can dilute some of those black people in that very concentrated area to some of those black people voting in this, which is predominantly Republican, and the rest of those in that high concentrated area voting over here, which is prominent Republican area, then you are diluting that set of people, and they are not effectively having electoral representation. And there are different ways of understanding how it can happen. And as I say, it can go both ways. So I'm not just picking on Republicans here. So you can go and Google as to which party benefits more from gerrymandering, and you'll get different results as to who it is, and so on and so forth, and whether it is a myth that the Republicans benefit more. And it also depends at what time period you're looking at this too. But anyway, you've just had Donald Trump in broad daylight, because as I was saying, usually this doesn't happen up at kind of national level up here. So you don't get people saying, right, we need to do this, out in the open, saying we need to do this in this particular state so that we can win the election, right? But you get those people down there, lower down in the state and district levels, redrawing maps and doing this in order that the national party, in order that they do well locally, obviously, at district and state level, and then that transfers to electoral wins up at the top of the ticket, if you like, or whatever. You get my point. So this is very rare to see someone talk about this right at the top and advocate for it, and then say, we are going to do it. We are going to redraw the map in Texas so that we can win some seats. It's extraordinary.
This would be the biggest one, and so that'll be fun.
Are you calling then for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
And
but we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
What's your tariff rate for the EU?
So he's talked about doing this in Texas. We're going to redraw a simple redraw of the congressional map in Texas and some other states that we've seen that might be nice, thank you very much, to pick up seats. Not to win them out. We're not going to attract new voters. We're not going to win them by appealing to the voters. We're just going to redraw the maps so that we pick up those seats. Not win them, pick them up like groceries or favors. And he's saying the quiet part straight into the mic. And that's the point of this video. It's like, you're hearing this, it's obvious, it's out there, he's not hiding it, and yet it's just massively accepted. It's just this weird situation. He talks about it again over here.
Mr. President, at the event, which states besides Texas would you like Republicans to gerrymander?
Say it again.
Which states other than Texas would you like to redraw the map to gerrymander?
Which state besides Texas would you like Republicans to redraw the congressional?
Well, there's about 4 of them. I'll let you figure that one.
So instead of saying, "Oh, we're not doing this on purpose," or "We're not redrawing congressional maps in order to manipulate winning an election anywhere," like that's what you would traditionally expect the answer to be. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, we're going to do it here. We've got a few ideas to do it over here. We're just going to redraw the maps, and then we'll win."
Out, but we have about 4 of them. In 3 cases, it's 1, and in 1 case, it's 2 or 3.
Now, and you got Howard Lutnick there to the side, just nodding away. Yeah, a good idea. Donald. But then he's asked, and quite rightly so, well, look, if you're going to do that in Texas, what about if the Democrats do it? Because they can actually, in California, probably do some real damage to Republican hopes of getting any seats in California.
And Texas would be 5.
Are you concerned California will turn around and do the same thing?
Well, we'll fight them. They're so corrupt in California.
So rather than, they're going to do the same thing as us, it's like, no, they're so corrupt. Oh, we'll fight them. They're so corrupt. We're going to do it over in Texas. It's fine. It's just redrawing map. They do it over there. Oh, that's corrupt. They're doing that over there. Corrupt. We'll fight them for that. We'll take them down. They won't allow them to do that. What?
You never know what's going to happen, but we've done pretty well in the courts in California, as you see. We're batting about 1,000.
So we're going to challenge them in the courts if they do that, but we're going to do it in Texas.
Ultimately, we start off a little slow and then we get a lot of hits.
Mr. President,
Absolutely incredible. He's saying the quiet part out loud. So then Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, now I think the 4th biggest economy in the world. Right, this is a pretty big job. He's coming out fighting, and although he was on the Sean Ryan podcast for 4 hours the other day, and Sean Ryan's own, I've read loads of comments, loads of his own supporters like excoriating Sean Ryan for platforming Gavin Newsom, but it's the idea of like, well, you need to talk to the other side. I mean, that should be what everyone is doing. Rather than sitting in your own information bubbles. But anyway, Gavin Newsom, he's not liked by a lot of people on the Republican side. He's a bit of a boogeyman. Here he's saying Trump said he's going to steal 5 congressional seats in Texas and gerrymander his way to a 2026 win. Well, 2 can play at that game. Special sessions, special elections, ballot initiatives, new laws. It's all on the table when democracy is on the line. It's like, if you want to play this game and you want to talk about it openly, let's tit for tat.
I think there should be a national framework for independent redistricting, period, full stop. I mean, gerrymandering, and let's be fair, we've seen this weaponized by both parties for decades. But these guys, this is a whole nother level of weaponization coming from the right. And what Trump did today is the ultimate tell. They feel they're on the ropes. They feel they're behind. They feel they're vulnerable with the big, beautiful bill. They feel like the momentum is shifting away from them, and it's Speaker Jeffries, it's not Speaker Johnson. So on that basis, they got to rig the game. You got to change the game because you can't win by the existing rules. So he goes in and talks to these guys that should be focused on flood preparedness, should be focused on restoring NOAA and the weather investments that they need to make and the resiliency efforts, to talk about getting FEMA back on track and how little accountability with Kristi Noem and some of those early decisions that were made or not made.
I'm going to be talking about that in another video.
Instead, they're using that special session to weaponize for the next election. And that should scare the hell out of everybody, because these guys are playing by a different set of rules. And so from my perspective, if we're going to play fair in a world that is wholly unfair, we may have the higher moral ground, but the ground is shifting from underneath us. And I think we have to wake up to that reality. And I'm talking to members of my legislature, what are our alternatives? We can do a special session. I can call for one today if I chose to. We can then put something on the ballot, and I could call a special election. We can change the Constitution with the consent of the voters, and I think we would win that. I think people understand what's at stake in California. I think we'd come out in record numbers. I think it would be extraordinary success. That's a clean way of doing it. It'd be a very short window, because you got to come back with the maps, and you got to change all this and prepare for the ballots that are around the corner next year. Or you can look at other avenues, which we are exploring, which are pathways with the legislature to do urgency clauses with 2/3 of the legislature in both of our houses, to move forward with legislative redistricting in between the constitutional construct, which is every census, the Independent Redistricting Commission does a new map, but it's silent about what happens in between. So it's a novel legal question, and it's being explored.
So that's Gavin Newsom talking about fighting fire with fire. Look, if you can do that, we can do that too. And actually, California is massive, and we can probably cause more of a problem. I know Texas is huge as well, but we can probably cause more of an issue, more damage to the Republicans in California than you can to Democrats in Texas. So that's his threat, to come back, fight fire with fire. And then you hear this chap, Isaiah Martin, who's a congressional candidate in Democratic one in Texas, who is coming up with a really, as it says here, bold response to Greg Abbott. He's a governor of Texas. His attempts to gerrymander and redraw the maps, which is what Trump is talking about. So here, Martin is suggesting launching a blue wave of gerrymandering, a spree that will blow the Republicans out of the water, and then banning gerrymandering, banning the redrawing, but showing the people of America that this is a tool that can be weaponized for political ends. And look, if you're going to do it, we're going to do it back to you, and then everyone's going to clamor for it to be banned. And he's got a really solid point here.
So Trump's coming after me again. He wants to change the lines in our district because I keep calling him out for destroying the economy. He can't make your life more affordable, so he's focused on me. But instead of writing a strongly worded letter about how outraged we are, let's beat Republicans at their own game. Now see, the plan starts right here in Texas, but it goes national. We need Texas state legislators to lead the state of Texas to do a maneuver called a quorum break. A quorum break is when there's not enough people present in the room to pass a bill. It's been done a couple times before, and with them out of the state, the Republicans won't be able to pass their gerrymander. Now here's where things get dicey. The answer is for them not to go to Washington, D.C. because Trump has control there. It's instead to go to California. Because if Abbott tries to go after him, you think that Gavin Newsom wouldn't want to square off with?
The idea, and as the screen grab there shows, to complete this game, Gavin Newsom. So rather than go somewhere else where there will be a lot of Republicans, go to California where Gavin Newsom is wanting this fight. And then start planning to gerrymander in California, and then take that as a Democratic gerrymander wave across the country and show how it is a dangerous game to play.
Off with them. Stay with me here. Now see, when they get to California, they're not just going there for a vacation. They're going there to demand that California gerrymander Republicans the same way they do Democrats. With their population advantage, it would pour cold water on any plans Republicans had for keeping the House. But you guys know me. I don't want to just beat Republicans. I want to crush them. I'm calling for a wave of blue state gerrymandering across America. Once we beat the Republicans bad enough, that's how we force them to support a national gerrymandering ban. I'll introduce that bill myself in Congress. America deserves more than a recital of problems. It's time to fight fire with fire. Congress has got to fight back harder against these guys. Comment fire with fire, and we'll send you a link to show you how you can help.
So fighting fire with fire, and that seems like a pretty controversial but very strong response to the very overt gerrymandering that Greg Abbott and thus Donald Trump are advocating. Now, Ken Paxton, he's the Attorney General in Texas. He's a controversial guy, not particularly popular. In fact, as a sidebar, I think he might be in, his name is in the hat at least, to possibly become a senator in Texas, maybe replacing John Cornyn, but I'm not sure. And he might not win that. It might be a chance for Democrats. Anyway, Ken Paxton here says, if Democrats ignore the duty of their constituents by breaking quorum, they should be found and arrested no matter where they go. The people of Texas elected them to do a job, not run away and hide like cowards. Lawmakers must answer the special session call and pass the important priorities that the governor has put forward. My office stands ready to assist local and state and federal authorities in hunting down and compelling the attendance of anyone who abandons their office and their constituents for cheap political theatre. So he's up for a fight over this, Ken Paxton, for what Isaiah Martin has just detailed. Gavin Newsom gets involved. So he's got an appetite, Gavin Newsom, for this. Nothing screams democracy quite like threatening to arrest elected officials. Keep it up, Ken. Really showing the American people your true colours. Okay, so this is that brazen declaration by Trump that they are going to redraw maps for the benefit of the Republicans. And then we have massively going to change subject here, but it's again this the brazenness of Trump having permission to I guess implicit permission, because he's not restricted by the law in the US, permission to use crypto, meme coins, stable coin, be involved, engorge himself, line his pockets engorge himself on crypto and line his pockets with money as the president, to use his position of authority to make money. And we've got the excellent Joe Neguse, I think it's pronounced Neguse here, a Democratic representative, calling this out to someone here, I think an Arkansas representative, who is saying, we've got these rules in place that representatives and senators can't do this. And Joe Neguse is saying, well, why do these rules not apply to the president? If we're saying this is bad, that we do this and abuse our power in order to make money and influence things, etc., etc., and you accept that this is a problem, this is a bad thing, that we shouldn't be able to do this, and you're referring to the existing laws, then what's your justification for these laws not applying to the president so that the president can engorge himself on crypto, etc., etc.? So really, really fantastic couple of minutes here from Neguse. And I don't like the contempt of the guy he's speaking to in some of his sort of responses.
So your
apologies, it's only in one ear as well.
position is that under current law, French Hill can't issue a payment stablecoin as a member of Congress, right?
Because that's the laws
Because that's existing
rules
law.
of the House of Representatives.
Correct.
Prohibit that.
And a member of the Senate can't issue a payment stablecoin under current law,
Because
right?
of the ethics rules of the Senate.
Okay. And senior executive officials within the executive branch can't issue a payment stablecoin today.
Because of the Ethics in Government Act.
Correct. But the President of the United States can.
That's because the U.S. government law does not apply these kind
And
of
the
rules.
question
in
is, why
detail
don't
to
we?
this.
I'm not asking, I understand your point. The point is, if we're saying that every other member of the federal government can't issue a payment stablecoin, wouldn't it be prudent to say that the person who is affiliated with the ownership of one of the largest stablecoins in the world, that he should be precluded too? I don't understand why
But
we're
of course,
banning
he's
everyone
not
else.
issuing it. He is an owner in a company that is.
He's an owner of
And
a company
he's
that is.
disclosing that under the House, under the government ethics.
I'm not
law.
asking about.
I mean, that's a ridiculous position from this other guy, saying, well, he's not issuing a stable coin. He owns a company. It's other people below him. It's like, that's your excuse? Wow. Like, this is done on his behalf and using his position in order to make money, in order to grift. It's like, if it's bad for us to do it, it's bad for the president to do it. Yeah, but the rules say that he doesn't have to, that he's yeah. And I'm saying, says Neguse, I'm saying that where is the rational justification for having him exempted? I know the rules say that. That's precisely what I'm talking to you about. Like, yeah, should that be the case?
Disclosure. I recognize, I hear your point about disclosure laws. But my point is, clearly we've decided that members of Congress, that it's not in the best interests of the constituents that you serve in Arkansas and that I serve
No,
in
these
Colorado.
are decisions made by previous Congress.
Correct. And I'm saying that in previous Congresses, they made the decision that it isn't in the best interest of the people of Arkansas or the people of Colorado for you or I to be issuing payment stablecoins. And you are reaffirming that. You've decided to include the rule of construction in this bill, I presume because you agree, because you think it's not a good idea for Maxine Waters to have her own payment stablecoin. I agree with you. And my point is, why are we not doing that for the one person in the federal government who seems to actually have a real ownership interest affiliated with a stablecoin? Isn't that convenient? Why wouldn't we add him? Why wouldn't we say the president and the vice president? Just add 4 words.
And I'd love to hear what his answer to that was, but absolutely on point. It's just this broad daylight situation where the president is able to do and say whatever the hell he likes. Just absolutely incredible, and make tons and tons of money on the back of it. So now we're going to have a little look at some of the things that Trump's been saying in broad daylight and ask ourselves, if Biden had said or done this, if Obama had said or done this, then what would have happened? Would we have been going absolutely insane? So in the past 24 hours, well, this was yesterday. So 24 hours prior to yesterday, Trump had fallen asleep at an event. He'd forgotten the names of people at the event, forgot who accompanied him to the event that he had a nap at, told a blatantly false story about a family member and the Unabomber. We're going to listen to that. It's insanely just nuts. and forgets that he appointed Jerome Powell as Fed chair. So he's trying to fire the Fed chair. It's like, who the hell appointed this guy? Well, it was you in your first term. But anyway, just some broad daylight stuff to go through. Ask yourself, what would have happened had Biden or Obama said or done these things? Okay, so the White House has removed, and this is going back to May the 23rd. So this is how long I've been keeping this one back. Back then, the White House removed the transcripts of Trump's remarks from the website as questions were growing over his mental fitness. They started not to log the transcripts of when he speaks. Normally, time's gone past, you'd have transcripts for everything the president says, and they are on record and kept on White House website or wherever, government website. Literally everything they attack Joe Biden on is happening to this clown show, says this particular source. Now, the source at the time, he was saying just bonkers things like this. As Marlene Robertson says, since the White House is scrubbing senile Grandpa Trump's gibberish, here's a few highlights from a speech to West Point cadets. So this is the time he made a speech to West Point cadets that happened to look just like a political rally. Then they were cheering and getting involved politically, and it was all highly controversial. But these are some of the things that he said word for word. I was investigated more than the great late Alfonso Capone. Alfonso Capone was a monster. He was a very hardened criminal. I went through more investigations than Alfonso Capone. Now I am talking to as president. Can you believe this? The job of the US Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. He's literally saying the point of our armed forces is at the point of a gun to go around the world and spread democracy. You're going to have democracy. He's saying he ended up getting a divorce, found a new wife, which is, by the way, exactly what Trump did. He ended up getting a divorce, found a new wife. Can you say a trophy wife? Melania Trump, anyone? It didn't work out too well. That doesn't work out too well. I must tell you, a lot of trophy wives. It doesn't work out. It made him happy for a little while at least. He found a new wife. He got a big yacht. Just like speaks like a child. The whole stealth thing, stealth fighter bombers. I'm sort of wondering, we shape a wing this way, they don't see it, but the other way they see it, I'm not so sure. And he's just like, and I've done whole videos on, it's just like, that was just one small example of a couple of parts of a speech, but I've done some analyses of his speech patterns and the lack of syntax and the changing of subjects in the middle of a sentence, and it's just gobbledygook. And then I don't know if his speechwriters are having a laugh trying to get him to say a word that they know he can't.
As a linguist, translator, and cryptologic technician.
That's how that goes.
And cryptologic.
Anyway, he gets to do that time and time again, and no one bats an eyelid. And Biden did it, and everyone's like, senile, mad, get rid of him. Okay, so Mehdi Hassan says, imagine if Biden had done this. So Donald Trump delivered a rambling speech in Pittsburgh. So this is now coming back forward. I mean, after like a couple of months of rambling speeches, we'll pick another one. Donald Trump delivered a rambling speech in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he made several improbable claims and appeared to forget names. Trump falsely asserted that his late uncle, Dr. John Trump, taught Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, at MIT, despite Kaczynski never attending the institution. He also claimed to have discussed Kaczynski with his uncle, which is highly unlikely as his uncle died in 1985, years before Kaczynski was identified as a Unabomber. During the event, Trump forgot the names of aides and made an unsubstantiated claim that securing $16 trillion in US investment. The speech raised concerns about Trump's age and capacity, as he is the oldest person to ever be sworn in as president. Now, I'm giving you that background before we listen to the actual speech so that you know that everything he says here is made up. Everything he said here is made up. And this is in broad daylight.
Permits, and I have to brag just for a second, because when I first heard about AI, it's not my thing, although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever, he was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, 3 degrees in nuclear, chemical, and math. That's a smart man.
Degrees in nuclear, chemical, and math.
Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was?
No, you
There's very little difference between a madman and a genius. But Kaczynski, I said, what kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? And then he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well, but it's interesting in life. But I will permits, and I have to brag just for a second, because
talking about the interactions between his uncle John Trump and Kaczynski, when Kaczynski didn't go to MIT, John Trump had died 10 years before Kaczynski did the Unabomber thing anyway, and so the whole thing's made up. Literally, he's lying to you straight to your face. MIT have said there's no record of Kaczynski, even from the affiliated other places that are affiliated to MIT. I'm just trying to. There's a CNN fact check about that. Harvard University and the University of Michigan, not MIT. And even though they're affiliated in some ways, there's no enrollment record information of Kaczynski ever attending MIT, and that's coming from MIT themselves. And CNN fact check of this says, well, the one thing that he could have accurate, and it's interesting to say could, because even the claim from Trump is not quite right, where he says that John Trump, his uncle, was the longest serving faculty member, longest serving professor at MIT. The MIT spokesman's come up and said, well, he does remain among the longest serving professors, and he was highly valued member but he's not the longest. Anyway, everything Trump seems to say is just absolute BS. So then we hear that he's going to try and fire Jerome Powell, but just listen to, and this he said some time ago, this is going back to June the 25th, so this is a month ago.
Very average mentally person. He's an average mentally person. I'd say
he even repeats this. He's a very average mentally person. A very average mentally person.
Very average mentally person. He's an average mentally person. I'd say low in terms of what he does. Low IQ for what he does.
So he's not making any grammatical sense here. I just have to say that. Remember, this is a guy that said he's a stable genius himself. He's a very low mentally person, but then again, it's going to look in depth at the syntax of his sentences here.
Very average mentally person. He's an average mentally person. I'd say low in terms of what he does. Low.
That's a low in terms of what he does. Low. That's a low in terms of what he does. Low.
Low IQ for what he does.
Then he kind of corrects himself and says he should say he has a low IQ in terms of what he does, or in the context of what he does, or for what he does, he has a low IQ. But he doesn't even get there. It's just a garbled mess. And then there was this going back to June again, around that time. So he's slagging off Jerome Powell for having a low IQ. The guy in charge of the Fed, right? He's saying how wonderful his uncle is by lying about his uncle, and he speaks in garbled messes himself, but then has the audacity to do this to someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC. So he said in this massive screen, a stupid AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. The reason for her rantings is all of the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of the country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we will find out that she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett. So that's Jasmine Crockett, from representative in Georgia, but from Texas, I think, who is a seriously low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country. So, it's interesting. You've got a Latino, then you've got a black woman, then you've got a Middle Eastern woman. And those are the people he's going for, all women, all not white women. Okay, who does nothing but complain about our country, yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated as one of the worst in the world, if it's even rated at all. How dare the mouse tells us how to run the United States of America. We're just coming back from that radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, and the auto pen in charge. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical. As the doctor in charge said, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every answer right. By the way, he did like the dementia test effectively, not an IQ test. He keeps challenging other people to IQ tests and saying that he aced it. He aced, like, can you remember 3 things? A tree, a rhinoceros, and a badger, or whatever it is. Like, dude. Ugh. Anyway, I got every answer right. Instead of her constant complaining, Alexandria should go back home to Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in a district she represents and which she never goes to anymore. She better start worrying about her own primary before she thinks about beating our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer. Which is, again, another slur on Schumer. I mean, he's so childish. Whose career is definitely on very thin ice. She and her Democratic friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history, so go ahead and try impeach me. Again, make my day. Now, AOC very cleverly responds, Mr. President, don't take your anger out on me. I'm just a silly girl, which is a reference to something else. I'm not going to go into it. Take it out on whoever convinced you to betray the American people and our Constitution by illegally bombing Iran and dragging us into war. It only took you 5 months to break almost every promise you made. Also, I'm a Bronx girl. You should know that we can eat. You should know that we can eat Queens boys for breakfast. Respectfully, I just love that at the end. I'm not even from Queens. I'm a Bronx girl, and I'll eat you for breakfast. And the kind of like, imagine if Obama did this, if Biden did this aspect. So another outbreak, another rant from Donald Trump was against Jamie Raskin recently. Representative Jamie Raskin, a third-rate Democrat politician, has no idea what is in our fantastic tax cut bill, nor would he understand it if he did. So again, insulting other people's intelligence while claiming that he's a genius, even when he can't say a bunch of things, forgets people's names, makes up stories, and talks absolute BS. So he says about Raskin, this dope has been consistently losing to me for years, and I love watching his ugly face as he is forced to consistently concede defeat to Trump, and tonight should be another of those nights. Raskin is a bad politician and a total loser, all caps. So he's just taking, the President of the United States is taking to Truth Social to call another politician ugly. Literally, you're ugly. You've got an ugly face. You're a bad politician and a total loser. I mean, this is like playground stuff. Imagine Obama doing stuff like this. Obama would never stoop this low. This is absolutely egregious. Now, Joe Walsh talks a lot about this. So he's a former Republican politician himself. He's just joined the Democrat Party, actually. He's talking about, he's quite often saying, imagine if Obama did this.
Can we play the Imagine Obama game? Hey, MAGA, everybody sit down. Everybody in the MAGA classroom, sit down. I'll wait till you're all sitting down, MAGA. Everybody take your seats, MAGA. We're going to play Imagine if Obama did this. Can we play that game? Everybody hold my hand. Imagine that President Barack Obama threatened to take away the citizenship of, I don't know, give me the MAGA equivalent of Rosie O'Donnell. Right? Imagine Obama threatened to take away somebody's citizenship, MAGA, somebody you loved. Would you be upset, MAGA? Would you say that's out of line, MAGA? Imagine, MAGA, that...
So this is an answer to Trump threatening to take Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship away because he doesn't like her. She's an American citizen, not even like a second generation or anything. She's not like... You can imagine denaturalizing someone if you had naturalized them. As in... had they become a US citizen from abroad, come and settled in the US, become a naturalized US citizen, and then they did something so egregious that you could say, right, we're taking away your citizenship. You can't take away someone's citizenship when that's their citizenship and they were born in the United States. Okay, she lives in Ireland now, but like she's an American citizen.
Barack Obama threatened to defund Republican-run cities because he didn't like them. Would you be bothered? Imagine if Obama did that. Would you be bothered by that? Imagine if Barack Obama, as president, threatened to prosecute Fox News because he didn't like
CBS,
a report that
ABC
they ran
News.
about him. MAGA, would you be bothered by that? Would you raise holy hell about that? Would Sean Hannity go crazy? Would Sean Hannity go crazy? Imagine President Barack Obama threatened to arrest Florida Governor Ron DeSantis because DeSantis opposed his agenda. And Barack Obama said, you know what? I'm going to have DeSantis arrested. I don't know, MAGA.
Is that's possibly in response to a number of different things that Trump has threatened against Democrats, but it could be Mamdani in New York that he has threatened.
Would that bother you? Would you think or say that's wrong? I just love to play the Imagine Obama Did It game. I just love to play that game.
So Joe Walsh, he's pretty angry these days with how things are going. And again, the brazen daylight situation again. So the next brazen daylight, and this is one of the last things I'm going to talk about, is the World Club Cup Championship. So this is where the kind of top clubs, football clubs from around the world compete in a championship against each other. It took place in the US recently. Trump got booed in the stadium, interestingly, and then talked about how he was applauded and everything. He was actually booed. But here we've got the Chelsea team, the English Chelsea side, receiving their trophy. It's a massive, it's like worth $230,000 or something. This Trump's up on stage because he was there, kind of endorsing the tournament final, and he came down onto the stage, and then wouldn't get off the stage, and it was really uncomfortable. And you had even, was it Cole Palmer saying, what the FC doing here, just behind him, as Trump didn't get off the stage, even though your man from FIFA was trying to usher him off the stage. It was really embarrassing. Anyway, point I'm going to make is after this.
Damas y caballeros, el Chelsea Football Club de la Liga Premier.
You say, what's he doing there?
En una victoria histórica sobre el Paris Saint-Germain, es el campeón del primer Mundial de Clubes, FIFA 2025.
He's trying to get rid of Trump, and he can't get rid of him. Anyway, so that was all embarrassing, and everyone's talking about that as in the news afterwards. But what many might not realise is that he took the official, I wouldn't say cup, plate, whatever that thing is. The intricate prize hoisted aloft by the London club's captain, Reece James, was a replica because FIFA has let Trump use the original as an ornament in the Oval Office. The trophy, crafted at Tiffany & Co., has a 24-karat gold-plated finish, costs around $230,000 to make. Just, you can add brazen kleptomania to his list of things that he's doing in broad daylight. He's just kept the Gold Club World Cup trophy. And it gets worse than that. So not only is he got himself that trophy, this is him caught on camera nicking one of the medals. Just putting that medal in his pocket. Just pocketing one of the medals. As someone says here, one effing thief. He's discussing the greed. He can put a World Cup medal that he didn't win next to the Purple Heart medal he didn't win. It's all this brazen broad daylight stuff that it's sickening. But why am I talking about this kind of frivolous stuff to do with World Cup trophies and medals? It's because he won't get challenged on that. Like, he can get away with doing anything. Like, he can say anything. He can call people what they like. He can bumble over words. He can spout garbage. He can lie to people openly about stuff that's easy to fact check. He can have ICE go around snatching people off the streets willy-nilly without due process. Like, there's nothing this man can do that isn't challenged. Everything's become normalized. He is just able to get away with it all. And we forget how much has been normalized. Here is a list of Donald Trump's achievements. He flew 7 times on Epstein's plane, 97 times pleaded the Fifth Amendment, so not answering questions because he pleads the Fifth. He has 34 felony convictions, 91 criminal charges, 26 sexual assault allegations, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments, 2 convicted companies, 1 fake university shut down, 1 fake charity shut down, $25 million fraud settlement, $5 million sexual abuse verdict, $2 million fake charity abuse judgment, $93 million sexual abuse judgments, $400 million plus in fraud judgments. First president in history to serve a full term and increase the deficit every year he was in office. First president in history to maintain a debt to GDP ratio over 100% for his entire term. Highest annual budget deficit, most added to the national debt in a single term. Most new unemployment claims, largest single day point drop in the history of the Dow Index. First major party candidate in half a century to lose a popular vote twice. Longest government shutdown in history. And he did that while his own party controlled both chambers of Congress. First president in the history of approval ratings to maintain a net negative approval rating for his entire term. First president to be impeached twice. First president to have bipartisan support for his conviction after impeachment, which happened both times. Most indictments, guilty pleas and criminal convictions of members of an administration. First president to have a mugshot. That is all normalized. And he's saying stuff in broad daylight. Let's gerrymander. Yeah, we're gonna steal some. We're gonna get some seats here because we're just gonna redraw the map. We're gonna do that in Texas and 4 other places. What are you gonna do about it? I'm just saying it out loud. I'm saying the quiet part out loud. Yibbity yabba. Let's do it. He says all the quiet parts out loud and they get normalized and he doesn't get challenged. Crazy times. Crazy times. Let me know what you think.